why you shouldn't move to Baldwin County in 2025. Sounds crazy, right? Well, stick with me because I promise this isn't what you think. Really quick, I'm Jess. If you're new here, my husband Tony and I make these videos so people can get an idea of what living in Lower Alabama looks like. So if you're thinking of moving here, be sure to call us after this video so we can help you too. People all over the country are packing up their lives and heading south. But Baldwin County, supposedly it's a place you need to avoid. Too much growth, too much attention, too many changes. But here's the actual reality. Those are exactly the reasons this area is becoming one of the most desirable places to live in the entire South. So in this video, I'm breaking down the so-called downsides of Baldwin County and showing you why they're actually the biggest reasons families, retirees, and even remote workers are flocking here. By the end, you'll understand why Baldwin County is the place everyone's trying to keep a secret. Okay, so let's start with the big one, the growth. Now, if you ask some locals, they'll tell you Baldwin County has changed too much, too fast. Traffic feels heavier, new neighborhoods seem to pop up every time you blink, and you'll even hear people say the charm of this area is totally disappearing. And honestly, I get it. Change can be uncomfortable, especially if you've lived here your whole life. You remember what it once was, and it's sad to see things change right before your very eyes. Baldwin County's growth sounds massive only because it used to be a hidden gem. When you compare our growth to places like Atlanta, Houston, or even Nashville, it's really a drop in the bucket. We're talking a county that's still under 300,000 people. To put that into perspective, Atlanta's metro has nearly 6 million people. Houston, over 7 million. Even Mobile next door has more people than Baldwin County. And so here's the kicker. Growth has actually brought huge benefits to this area. We've seen better schools like the new Belforce Elementary and expansions in Fairhope High School. Shopping and dining, you don't have to drive to Mobile or Pensacola anymore. You've got the Eastern Shore Center. New restaurants are popping up in Fairhope like Little Bird, and even more coming to Foley near Owa. Infrastructure is catching up. Look at the new Beach Express improvements and plans for widening Highway 98. Even the lifestyle perks are growing. More job opportunities like Austal and Airbus, better healthcare with Thomas Hospital expanding, and more entertainment, whether it's a concert at the Wharf down in Orange Beach, a family day at Owa Parks and Resort, or grabbing local seafood at Tin Top over in Bon Secours. Things you used to have to drive far for are now right here in Baldwin County. So yes, Baldwin County is growing, but instead of it being a reason to run away, it's actually one of the top reasons so many people are moving to this area. It's growth that adds value, convenience, and opportunity without stripping away the coastal lifestyle and the small town feel that makes this place so unique. So for many of the locals who feel frustrated with the number of transplants moving here, you've got to understand where they're coming from. People are drawn to Baldwin County for the same reasons many of you love it. Quality of life, strong community, and natural beauty and opportunity. The growth you're seeing is a reflection of how appealing this area truly is. It's not about outsiders taking over. It's about families searching for the same sense of belonging and lifestyle that you've kept here all along. Now, a big reason why Baldwin County may not be the right fit for everyone comes down to the jobs and the wages. A lot of people move here from higher paying states thinking the cost of living will balance out, but it doesn't always work out that way. I recently had a police officer move here from California who is making $145,000 a year. And he was shocked to find that a police officer in Daphne makes only around $45,000 to $50,000 a year. So when you look at the median home price in many parts of Baldwin County, which is now around $325,000 to $400,000, add insurance, especially in a coastal home, that could run around $3,000 to $5,000 a year, sometimes more with flood coverage. But the average salaries here don't necessarily support those prices. Teacher salaries here are only around $52,000 to $50,000 a year. So it's hard to live off that salary, even with our homes costing less. And our housing prices here have actually steadily gone up in Baldwin County over the last several years, yet wages really haven't kept pace. Many of the jobs available here are in blue-collar industries, healthcare, tourism, and service work. Now, while those sectors keep our community running, they don't always come with the salaries people expect if they're moving from places like Illinois, New York, or Texas. Even healthcare, which is one of the stronger industries in this area, isn't offering the kind of pay that offsets the rising cost of living. That can be a shock to newcomers who assume their career will easily transfer over, or even pay the same as where they're coming from. So the reality is, unless you're bringing your job with you, whether remote work or retirement income, you may find it challenging to make the math work long-term in Baldwin County. Another reason Baldwin County may not be the right move for everyone is the small town culture, and that can definitely be a shock depending on where you're coming from. If you've lived in a bigger city, you're probably used to having every chain store and restaurant you could want right at your fingertips, along with endless shopping, dining, and restaurant options. Down here in Baldwin County, it's a totally different pace. We've got our share of conveniences, don't get me wrong. You'll see Publix, Target, Chick-fil-A, and plenty of local gems, but you're not going to see the same variety or the same level of convenience as you would in, say, a metro area. For example, if you're used to late night dining or being able to choose from dozens of cuisines within a short drive, Baldwin County might feel limiting. Don't think you can order Uber Eats at 11, 12, 1 a.m. because it's very far and few. I think the only thing I can think of that delivers that late might be Whataburger. Many restaurants close earlier, shopping options are more spread out, and sometimes you'll have to drive 30 to 45 minutes to get something specific. And while a lot of people love the slower pace and more personal, community-focused lifestyle here, it isn't for everyone. Some newcomers do find this place a little too quiet, or they miss that variety of entertainment, cultural events, and conveniences that come with bigger cities. Bottom line, watch all of our videos, do your homework, talk to us so that we can really make sure you're aware of what living here is really like. Take Fairhope, for example. There are amazing boutiques, art galleries, and local restaurants, but you won't find every chain or cuisine you're used to in a big city. Or Gulf Shores, there are some great seafood restaurants and local favorites, but you won't find the variety or food diversity or chain restaurants that bigger cities offer. Grocery shopping can also feel limited, with many people driving to Foley or Pensacola for bigger stores and options. And both of these towns I mentioned are small, but keep in mind tourist season. That definitely changes the climate. And so much revolves around tourism here, the pace of life changes with the calendar. Busy summers mean packed restaurants, long waits, and a lot of seasonal workers, while winters feel calm, quiet, and almost like a different town. The South is charming, but it's also slow, and don't forget, it's tourist heavy during the summer months. If you're coming from a big city where everything's open late and people are always on the move, you might be surprised by how early restaurants close and how relaxed the overall pace is even during our tourist season. Everything moves slower here, so be ready to practice patience. Show your servers grace. You won't always find a sense of urgency. You definitely won't find something open super late all the time. In fact, expect a lot of businesses to be closed on Sundays and even Mondays. Today's Monday. I went to the T-Mobile store and I was surprised to find they didn't even open till 10 a.m. So while small town life is exactly what draws many people here, it's safe, it's family friendly, it's slower, it can feel like a step back in time for others. That's why it's so important to visit first and really spend a few days experiencing day-to-day life here before making your move. I actually have a client who moved here from up north, and while he absolutely loves the warm weather, the beaches, and the fact that he's never going to have to shovel snow or scrape ice off his windshield again, there are parts of small town life that tend to frustrate him. One of his biggest complaints is the dining scene. Back home, he was used to family diners, unique mom and pop spots, and a wide variety of cuisines, all within a short drive. Here, he definitely is feeling that the options are more limited. He's known to make a joke or two that he's tired of the same chicken joints, Chick-fil-A, Foosackly, Zaxby's, and he's definitely overseen Waffle Houses on every corner. Even the coffee shop selection feels a little bit repetitive to him, especially compared to the variety he had up north. And when it comes to international food, that's another big challenge here. In larger cities, you might have dozens of Chinese or Mexican restaurants to choose from, each with their own spin and flavor. But here in Baldwin County, the options are much fewer and farther between. While there are a handful of spots that locals love, it doesn't compare to the sheer variety you find in larger metro areas. Now, there's one Chinese restaurant that I do really like, and that's over in Foley, and it's called Jade Gardens. This is about 40 minutes from my house, but I figured out that they do deliver. So I usually order it, not exaggerating, 2 hours in advance. So if I time it out right, it'll arrive right in time for dinner. And I order a lot because who doesn't love Chinese leftovers? And then when it comes to Mexican food, this is a tough one. I only have one that I like, and that's Taco Fiesta. If you're local and you're watching this video, drop your favorite spot in the comments. I'm pretty sure we tried them all, and I'm big on tortas, so Taco Fiesta has been my go-to recently, but I'm always looking for a new spot. So send your recommendations. And that's the reality of moving to a smaller market. While Baldwin County does have some great local restaurants, seafood spots that are to die for, and hidden gems, It simply doesn't offer the same endless variety of dining and food culture that larger cities have. For some people, that's no big deal. They love the simplicity and they find their go-to favorites quickly. But for others, especially those used to more options, it can take some time to adjust. My client James, if you're watching, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we get a nice Greek-owned family diner that's open 24/7. Until then, I'll be dreaming with you. Now, another challenge that comes with Baldwin County's rapid growth is that the infrastructure just hasn't fully caught up yet, especially when it comes to schools. Families move here in large numbers because of the reputation for strong public schools, but what many don't realize until they arrive is that a lot of these schools are already stretched to their limits. Take Daphne, for example. I've been hearing a lot of people complain about the schools being very overcrowded, and Daphne schools like Daphne East Elementary and W.J. Carroll are at or near maximum capacity, with hundreds of new students being added almost every year. Class sizes are larger than ideal, portable classrooms are being brought in to handle overflow, and teachers are working with limited resources to keep up with the demand. That same trend is happening across other parts of the county too. Spanish Fort, Fairhope, and Foley are all experiencing growth that pushes their schools to the edge. Now, Baldwin County schools are doing what they can. They're building new schools, approving expansions, and moving boundaries to redistribute students, but the reality is that growth is happening so fast, it's hard to stay ahead. So for families moving from areas where schools are newer, smaller, or have more funding, this can come as a surprise. It doesn't mean the schools are bad. On the contrary, many are excellent, but overcrowding can definitely affect the day-to-day experience. So if you're relocating with kids, it's really important to research specific school zones, talk to parents who live here, and understand that while Baldwin County offers great education options, the growing pains are real. And because of this overcrowding, a lot of families in Baldwin County end up exploring private school options. But down here in the South, private school is already a very popular choice, even though many of our public schools are some of the most highly rated in the entire state. For some parents, it's more about the class size and the overall environment. Private schools like Bayside Academy, St. Michael, Christ the King, and others offer smaller class sizes, closer student-teacher relationships, and in some cases, faith-based education that many families value. So while Baldwin County public schools are strong on paper, families moving in from out of state are often surprised at how common it is to hear, "We send our kids to private school." It's not necessarily because the public system is failing, but it's because the growth in the area makes private school an attractive option for those who want more individualized attention or a smaller community-style setting for their kids. And it's not just the Eastern Shore, Daphne, Spanish Fort, or Fairhope feeling the effects of rapid growth. Down on the coast, Gulf Shore city schools and Orange Beach city schools are also seeing a huge influx of students. These areas have become especially attractive to families who want to live near the beach but still be in a strong school district. Gulf Shores broke away from Baldwin County schools just a few years ago to create their own city school system, and Orange Beach followed suit not too long after. Now, both are newer, they're smaller school districts with high community involvement, which has made them even more appealing to families relocating from out of state. But with that popularity has come some growing pains. Enrollment numbers have been rising year after year as more families buy homes and condos in the area. Gulf Shores Middle and High School have already had to expand programs and adjust resources to meet demand. Orange Beach schools, while brand new and state-of-the-art, are already seeing higher than expected enrollment just a couple of years in. It's crazy how fast this area is growing. I think parents just love the tight-knit feel and the proximity to the water, but the surge of new students is something both districts are actively working to manage. So while these coastal school systems are a great draw, families moving here should understand that they're also experiencing the same pressure as the rest of Baldwin County, and that's growth at a rate that's faster than anyone predicted. On that note, a couple of clients that I've worked with recently come to mind. I recently worked with a family that bought a home on Fort Morgan Road, which is Foley School District. That's the zone. They didn't want Foley schools, so they said, you know what, we're just going to put our daughter in Chinook, no big deal. And I said, it is a big deal. You need to call that school before you close on this home, because if the school is a major factor in deciding where you're going to live, you need to make sure that that school actually has a spot for your daughter, because these private schools are filling up really fast. And Chinook is just one example of a very popular Christian school down here. Oh, I also want to talk about Ono Island because it gets confusing, and it's a good example of how zoning and school capacity issues are playing out. Ono Island is actually unincorporated Baldwin County, not technically part of Orange Beach. So here's how school zoning works for Ono Island residents right now. Kids who live on Ono Island are zoned for Foley schools. In the past, there was, or at least some had, the option to request attendance in Orange Beach City Schools, but that's changed or it's just less reliable right now, especially because the Orange Beach school system is filling up. So bottom line, just because you live on Ono Island and you like your kids to go to Orange Beach schools, that doesn't mean it will happen, especially now that the coastal city schools are at or nearing capacity. Most Ono Island families will end up with fully schools by default. And look, I've got a senior at public school and I have an 8th grader at a private Catholic school. Both are great schools, both highly rated, and honestly, we've had nothing but great experiences at each. My children have been in and out of different public schools in Baldwin County since we've lived here. Why the split? My kids are different learners, and I wanted to put them in environments where they could thrive. One does better in a big public school setting, and the other benefits from smaller class sizes. At the end of the day, you really can't go wrong here, public school or private. They're all great schools. But I'm going to move away from talking about schools now because I know a lot of y'all watching this might be relocating here and you really don't care one way or another about schools. We work with so many people who are retiring, or maybe you don't even have kids in school or you're single and schools just aren't on your radar. Whatever the case may be, I'm trying to give y'all as much information about Baldwin County as possible. Let's shift in something that does affect everyone, and that's housing costs. Prices here have been climbing steadily over the last several years, and what used to be considered a super affordable coastal area isn't quite the hidden gem it once was. 10 years ago, you could buy a brand new home for well under $200,000. Fast forward to now, and the median price for a single family home is more in the $325,000 to $400,000 range, with many neighborhoods well above that. And the demand is being driven by out-of-state buyers just like you who are cashing out of higher price markets, folks from Florida, Illinois, Texas, California, Colorado's a big one. You name it, and they're coming in ready to buy. That makes it harder for local families or even first-time home buyers to compete. On top of that, insurance costs have gone up, especially if you're near the coast. A gold fortified home can help with those discounts, but oftentimes you're still looking at around $3,000 a year, sometimes higher in your homeowner's insurance. It all depends on the size of your home and the location. Plus, you have to factor in additional flood coverage if you're in certain zones. Now, I'll tell you, 99.9% of the clients I work with say that's a trade-off. They're more than happy with moving here and our property taxes because it is a lot less than what they're paying. I know that was the case with us when we left Chicago. Our property taxes were around like $14,000 a year. I don't miss that at all. So while Baldwin County is still more affordable in some major metro areas, the gap is closing. If you're moving here because you'll think you'll automatically save money compared to where you are now, you'll want to do the math. We do have lower taxes, but our home prices are climbing. And between those home prices and insurance and our taxes, it might not be as cheap as you're hoping. Baldwin County is an amazing place to live, but it's not the perfect fit for everyone. Just this past week, we met with a couple who had a very specific budget and very specific non-negotiables for their home search. They wanted to match the exact square footage they currently have up north. No downsizing, no compromising. On top of that, they needed at least a half-acre lot because privacy was a top priority and they wanted space for a shed or a workshop. Their budget was $400,000. $400,000 is a lot of money. And when you think Alabama and $400,000, you automatically think, okay, I'm going to be able to get something amazing. Now, here's the challenge. In Baldwin County, especially south of I-10, that combination just doesn't exist at that price point anymore. Now, is it absolutely impossible to find? No. I mean, once in a great while we'll see something. It might need some work, but it is very, very far and few. Land is more expensive near the coast, and larger homes on bigger lots are pushing well past that $400,000 mark. There are options north of I-10 where you could stretch your dollar a little bit further, but this couple wasn't willing to make that trade-off. In the end, they decided it was better for them to stay up north rather than compromise on the things that mattered most to them. And we completely understand that. It's important for us to be very direct and realistic with anyone we work with. We're always going to give it to you straight, especially my husband, Tony. The last thing we want is for our clients to run into any surprises. So you can always count on us to be honest, upfront, and real with you every step of the way. And on that note, it's really important that I point out a big misconception out there. People think that moving to Alabama means you can scoop up your dream home at a bargain price. Maybe that was true 10 or 15 years ago, but Baldwin County has changed drastically. Between the rapid growth, the coastal appeal, and the influx of out-of-state buyers, the market here is competitive and prices reflect that. You can still find great homes, but expecting cheap plus all your dream home criteria, it's just not realistic anymore. In fact, the clients I just mentioned said verbatim 5 years ago, we could have got exactly what we're looking for in Baldwin County at that price. And that's completely true. That just shows you how much Baldwin County has changed in 5 years. Our market has grown so much, and it's only going to continue to increase because this is such a sought after place to live. In Baldwin County, you're going to see just about everything. There are resale homes in established neighborhoods. There are once rural areas that have turned into small subdivisions after a farmer sold off some land. And then there are larger, more custom style communities that break away from the cookie cutter look, but you'll definitely pay a premium for those. On top of that, Baldwin County is packed with new construction. In fact, there are currently somewhere between 50 to 120 active new construction communities, with most of the growth happening south of I-10 in places like Daphne, Fairhope, Foley, and along the Gulf Coast. With all that being said, laying it all out there, should you be afraid to move to Baldwin County in 2025? I don't think so, but you should be aware of everything happening here: the growth, the housing market, the culture, the infrastructure, and yes, the rising home prices. This is still one of the most desirable places to live in the South, with some of the lowest property taxes in the entire country. So if you're not turned off by everything I spoke about and you're looking for a slower pace, a simpler way of life, warm weather year round, and easy access to the beach, Baldwin County delivers. It's also a wonderful place to raise children, especially if you're drawn to that Southern hospitality, faith-based communities, or the conservative values are still very much alive here. And for retirees, this has become one of the most popular destinations we see people moving to. Retirees love Baldwin County because it offers that vacation lifestyle without the high price tags of, say, Florida. You get mild winters, world-class golf courses, fishing and boating on the Gulf, walkable coastal towns, and plenty of opportunities to stay active and social. Add in affordable property taxes, access to quality healthcare, and a strong sense of community, and it's easy to see why so many retirees are choosing to spend their best years right here. We also work with a lot of military families who are relocating to the area because of the proximity to the bases in Pensacola and Mobile. Our family originally moved here in 2016 because of the military, and that's how we actually discovered Baldwin County. So this area is great for anyone in the Coast Guard who's stationed over in Mobile, or a Navy family stationed in Pensacola, because it gives you the chance to live away from base while still being close for an easy commute. You've also got the VA hospital in Pensacola and Mobile, so that's definitely another perk of Baldwin County. You have a supportive community, good schools, and family-friendly neighborhoods. It makes it a great fit for those serving our country and anybody who's looking for a place to go home. And yes, I wasn't exaggerating. Home prices are going up, and the secret about Baldwin County is definitely out, but there are still affordable options if you're realistic. What you won't find are brand new homes on half an acre for under $250,000, or a house within walking distance to the beach for $350,000. If that's the expectation, you probably won't like what we have to say. But if you come here with open eyes, realistic goals, and a willingness to embrace both the charm and the challenges of a growing coastal community, Baldwin County could be exactly the home you've been looking for. If you're ready to move to Lower Alabama, call us today or schedule a strategy meeting Zoom call with us. The link for that is below. We are the ones who answer your calls, and we look forward to talking to you and helping you find your new home in beautiful coastal Alabama. And to learn more about living in LA, watch this next video.